Good morning, boys and girls. Hope you're okay. This is Tuesday and this is your English lesson. So, learning to understand what happened in Nagasaki in World War II. Now, Nagasaki, and you also may have heard of Hiroshima, or sometimes it's referred to as Hiroshima, were two very significant events at the end of World War II, which culminated thankfully in 1945. Now, it's important we understand about these because Kenzuki, one of our heroes actually in Kenzuki's kingdom, is connected to Nagasaki, and it's important we understand why he is devastated when he finds out what he finds out from Michael in this chapter. So what you need to do today is this. Have a read on the screen, which you can see right now. That gives you a little bit of background, a bit of context. Some of you might know about this already. Then what I'd like you to do is to click on the link and to visit the animation. It's only around about 5 or 6 minutes long, and it's a true story actually about a lady who lived in not Nagasaki but Hiroshima, which, like I say, is very similar in context to Nagasaki for what happens to the poor people of that city. Click on the animation, understand what happens, or just try to understand what happened and what went on during these times. When you've done that, this slide just shows you the two dates at the very bottom when these events took place, and also that big like red balloony sort of thing locates Hiroshima in the very southwest of Japan, and then Nagasaki, which is a little bit further over actually in the southwest corner. Okay, so they're quite close to one another, but obviously not exactly in the same place. Two different cities. Thought that might be useful so you could see where these places were. Note they're quite close to South Korea and to Shanghai too. On the screen right now gives you a little bit more context, a bit more information about Nagasaki. So have a read, have a look for some of the words, have a look for some of the good vocabulary there. I know some of you quite like this sort of thing, so it'll give you an idea precisely what happened in more detail, how and when it happened to the people of Nagasaki in World War II at this particular time. It's incredibly tragic, and as you'll read by the bottom right, many people sadly died. Again, if you check out the slide in which you can see now on the screen, just gives you a little bit more detail about what happened to Nagasaki. This is where Kenzuki, of course, comes from. And again, we can start to see why Kenzuki would have been mortified to have found out this particular news. You might want to pause the movie at this time to finish reading. So your task today is a mixture of reading comprehension, but also what you think about certain things. Should we call it philosophy? So, learning target to understand what happened in Nagasaki in World War II. Now, thankfully, it's impossible for us to begin to imagine what the poor survivors went through during this time. Now, try to use the animated movie that you would have seen at the start of this session, and by doing a little research online yourself to answer the questions below. Think about these. Some require your opinion, which means you won't find the answer in the text, but you'll find the answer in your head. Now, the questions start by asking you to find out some comprehension from, as I say, the animated movie, but latterly also some of the information, the facts that you read on the screen there. You might see on the screen there. And finally, you might see on the screen there. Now, about half to 2/3 of the way through, the questions change, and what we're looking for you to do is to give us your opinions based on what you've learned about what happened to the people of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. It would be great if you spent a little bit more than writing down 1 or 2 words, but really trying to understand and internalize the absolute devastation that occurred to these poor people at this particular time. Now, I'm not going to say any more at this particular point. I just want you to try and see if you can work these out on your own by having a read of these slideshows, checking out the animation, and also Googling Nagasaki and Hiroshima and making a little bit of interesting decisions yourself about what it is you think. Ultimately, the last two questions in particular, there is no right and wrong, but what you think is what I'm interested in today. Okay? This is quite a solemn lesson. This is quite a reflective, thoughtful lesson, but it's an important one that I'm going to look forward to discussing with you when you come to the clinics a little bit later on this afternoon. Best of luck. See you soon.